Welcome to this week's episode. We'll catch up on some local and international real estate news, make a call with Mortgage Mike to discuss home buyer financing tips, and answer the question, how do I upgrade my 1980s house? All in the next 15 minutes.
You're listening to the Bo Knows Real Estate Podcast. Tips and advice for home buyers, sellers, and owners. With award-winning RE/MAX agent, Bo Kaufman.
Welcome to the show, and let's start with international news right now. A survey of over 4,000 real estate agents in the States has discovered that the average house which sold in August, the average, got 3 offers. So multiple offers aren't just a thing up here in Winnipeg. It's happening all over the States as well. Of course, they do things a little bit different down there. A house will go up for sale, and if you're lucky, you're one of the first ones in the door and make an offer. The owner and his agent will say, yeah, we'll get back to you in a week or so, and then keep showing the house in hopes of getting more offers. That is exactly the opposite of what we do here. We'll put a house up, we'll show it for 4 or 5 days, and then say offers on a certain day. That's to give everybody a chance to see it, but everybody who makes an offer will get an answer that night. Which method is better? I think for the buyer, it's better this way because he doesn't have his offer sitting out there for a week or 10 days, only to hear that they didn't get it. And turning to local news, in the month of September in Winnipeg, we sold 6 houses over $1 million. The biggest one was $3.75 million in Tuxedo. And the most expensive condo sold last month was $700,000 in East St. Paul. Speaking of condos, and I'm not giving away any secrets here, this was actually in the news a couple of months ago. Back near the end of May, number 1 Wellington Cr, the top 2 floors are owned by the Aspers. And like I said, this was in the news. They listed it. It's 8,000 square feet and listed at $3.495 million. So let's round it up to $3.5 million. So if you've got $3.5 million lying around, please give me a call. I'd love to sell that condo to you. And here's some facts about it. I'm sure that if you have that kind of money, you don't really care that the monthly condo fees are just shy of $6,400. That's every month. The yearly taxes are $20,300. But if that is your primary residence, you will get that $700 discount from the province. So that's a plus. Also, your land titles transfer tax, this is the one-time payment that you have to pay whenever you buy a new property. For that condo, is going to be right around $70,000. That's a one-time land titles transfer tax. So like I said, if you're in the market for something really unique, this is, all joking aside, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous unit. 3.5, maybe we'll go in, we'll lowball them, and we'll get it for 3.2 or something like that. So give me a shout, Bo at 204-333-2202. On the blog this week is going to be the October market update, where we take a look at how many listings are available, how many have sold in the past month. And I've made it really simple now. It's available in a mobile-friendly format. Simply go to boknows.homes/market. If you're on your mobile device, it'll come up in really quick scrolling. Takes you a minute or so to catch up on what the market's doing in Winnipeg. So that again is boknows.homes/market. And next, we'll be calling Mike Schroeder of Mortgage Architects. And we're going to talk about home buyer closing costs. It doesn't matter whether you're buying your first house, your second, your 10th house or condo. There are closing costs that the buyer has to be aware of. That's coming up next.
We'll be right back after this short announcement.
Are you looking to buy a house or a condo in Winnipeg? Work with the agent who takes the time to explain the process to you, guiding you through every step. For service beyond the sale, book your home buying consultation with Bo Kaufman of RE/MAX Performance today. Bo knows real estate.
And now we're going to phone a friend of mine, Mike Schroeder of Mortgage Architects. Mike is a very experienced mortgage broker who goes out of his way for his clients to make sure they get the best possible mortgage. His tagline is, low rates are just the beginning, because the low mortgage rate isn't necessarily the best one. He endeavors to match buyers to the perfect mortgage option. So let's give him a call.
Hello.
Hey, Mike, it's Bo Kaufman calling.
Hey, good afternoon.
How's it going, buddy?
Doing very well.
Good. We're talking here about closing costs. So buyers in Canada can buy a house with as little as 5% down, but they should actually have more money than that in the bank, shouldn't they?
Correct. A good estimate is between 2 and 2.5% of the purchase.
Okay, so, and what are we talking about closing costs? What exactly are those things?
Sure. So the biggest parts of it are you have to pay your lawyer, you have to pay the government, it's called a land transfer tax, you have to pay for title insurance, and then sometimes you also have to bring current things like property taxes or any liens that might be.
Right, and a ballpark figure you were saying is 2.5% of the value of the house.
Correct. So if you're buying a typical $300,000 home, you should have a minimum of $15,000 set aside for the down payment, and somewhere between another $6,000 to $7,000 or so to cover the closing costs. That way you'll have a little bit too much, which is always better than having too little.
That's right, because there's always some unexpected costs coming in there, isn't there?
Exactly. The other thing to mention as well on that is that you can actually borrow the closing costs if you need to. So if you need to throw it onto a credit card or a line of credit, or even better, some lenders will actually include it as part of the mortgage. They just charge you a slightly higher rate for covering that closing cost.
Oh, that's good. But that's a closing cost only, or is that down payment as well?
Closing costs only for now. Down payment can also be borrowed, bit of a separate program, and that you as well can put on a line of credit as long as you have a good credit.
Okay, awesome. That's good information. Can you give us an example of like those closing costs, 2.5%? How do we get there? What's legal fees? What's a reasonable legal fee?
Sure. So let's call it between $1,200 and $1,400 for legal fees by the time you pay for all the different services. You have about another $300 or so for title insurance that protects you, the buyer, against some of the things that can happen to the property. And then you have the land transfer tax. I believe you had a good estimate on that for land transfer tax?
Yeah, I do. It's it starts off at a base figure. If you're buying a $200,000 house, it's right around $1,700. And every dollar above that is 2% more. So a $300,000 house will actually cost you $3,700. And it's funny, I was just talking earlier about the $3.5 million condo that's listed on Wellington Cr. The land titles transfer tax on that is $70,000. Right. But the average person wouldn't have to worry about that. Like a $300,000 house is $3,700. So add to that the legal fees, maybe home insurance, stuff like that. And that's where you come up with your 2.5% of the total.
On a side note, with an anecdote for myself, when I bought my house about 4 years ago or so, the insurance provider had me take a picture of the front of the house. I got an email the next day saying they couldn't insure my house because they didn't have a front railing on my front doorstep. So I actually called a contractor to come and do it immediately because they didn't want to not have insurance. So it was a $400 expense I wasn't expecting. So in addition to closing costs, having a little extra cash, sometimes things just go wrong. It's not anyone's fault. It's just something you're not expecting.
Right.
And something with real estate always happens as unexpected. So a little bit extra cash on hand is always good to be on the safe.
Well, that's really good to know. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. Have a nice day.
Hey, you too. Bye-bye. All right. And that was Mike Schroeder of Mortgage Architects. You can get a hold of him direct on his cell, 204-229-3214. He's always ready to help. A couple of months ago, I received a very happy surprise. A listener phoned me. Yes, there is a listener, and I really love getting calls like that. And she says, Bo, I own a home in White Ridge, and it was built in the 1980s, like much of White Ridge is. She says, maybe in an upcoming episode, you can talk about what identifies a home built in the 80s and what it takes to upgrade and to remove those obvious signs. Now, thinking about that, I can, off the top of my head, I can think of three things that identify homes built in the 80s: brass, oak, and Euro cabinets. And I'm going to address them in order of expense, like from the cheapest to the most expensive to fix. The first one is brass. Brass and glass light fixtures, brass door handles, accents, door knobs, brass heat registers, all that kind of stuff. They must have had a sale on brass back in the 1980s because that was a big trend back then. So the good news is it's not all that expensive. If you have brass light switches and receptacles, those are the cheapest to fix. You simply go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and for about $1 a piece, you can switch those brass plates out for the new, for a white one, a modern looking white one. If you have to remove a switch or the receptacle itself, which you shouldn't have to, but if you do, please don't do that yourself. Call an electrician. Actually call me for a referral to a really good electrician who's going to look after you and not rip you off. Heat registers, same thing. They're a bit more expensive, but you can replace those brass ones with something like a brushed nickel or so. Door handles, same thing. There's a lot of door handle, different styles out there. Brushed nickel, satin nickel seems to be the latest, a good trend. Lights. The good news here is that lights don't have to be expensive, and it's a good way to update your home. Bring in some new LEDs, or better yet, halogens. They're not as efficient as LEDs, but they are bright. And a lot of these homes, they suffer from being a little bit too dark in some places. So unless you have a super big chandelier, which is going to cost you more money, but the average hallway light, you can exchange that for $50-$60 to a nice looking modern with LEDs or halogens. So the second thing is a little bit more expensive to change, and that's oak. Before the 1980s, homes had a lot of mahogany. Mahogany is a tight-grained wood, which is easier to paint. The oak is more open pores or open grain. It's tougher to cover up. If you don't know what you're doing, hire a painter. Because if I've shown thousands of homes, and if there's a bad paint job, you can tell immediately. So covering oak is not as simple as just slapping some paint on it. Again, I've got a good painter who will look after you. The cost, I asked him for a cost, an average 1,200-foot bungalow to paint all the baseboards, the door frames, and the window frames. You're looking at between $1,000 and $1,500. But he'll do a perfect job, so it'll look like it was brand new. And the third item would be the Euro-style cabinets. These are those white cabinets with, what else? Oak accent or oak trim. They are more difficult to paint. Now, instead of, you don't have to go out and replace the whole kitchen. Friends of mine used a local company called New Life Kitchens, and I'm going to be doing an episode just on them, I believe. A wonderful job. It's about a 1,200-foot bungalow with a good-sized kitchen, and for about $6,000, they got all the fronts replaced by new modern-looking thermoform with nice nickel handles. So that is the most expensive upgrade, but you don't have to replace the whole kitchen. I'm sure there are other things that identify 1980s homes. If there are, give me a shout, let me know. Or if you have any subject matter that you want me to address in an upcoming episode, by all means, let me know. I love hearing from listeners. And that's Bo at 204-333-2202. My phone is usually on, not always, but it's usually on, and I love hearing from you. And this week's focus on local business is on Urban Topcoat painting. A friend of mine, Rob White, runs this company. He's got a lot of experience in painting, and we're going to do a separate episode about painting your own home, what you should and what you shouldn't do. But when somebody phones me and asks me for a referral to a painter, I always send him to Rob. The feedback I've had from clients has always been very positive. He does a really good job. He can do the interior, exterior, and as I mentioned earlier, he can paint all the woodwork and stuff like that. Even kitchen cabinets, if they're old wooden cabinets, he can resurface those or repaint those. Paint your concrete floors, paint your decks, anything to do with painting and coating. So you can contact Rob White at Urban Topcoat Direct, 204-791-8024, or his website is urbantopcoat.com. I do hope you enjoy this information. If you do, why not download my free app on your phone or on your desktop? Simply go to bowknows.homes/apps. Once there, you'll see a download button for iOS and Android device. That's bowknows.homes/apps. And that way, you never miss another episode.
Are you thinking of selling your Winnipeg house or condo? Work with the listing agent who goes beyond the MLS. Bo Kaufman of RE/MAX Performance has a marketing plan that is second to none. Book your free marketing plan and evaluation today. Bo knows real estate.
You've been listening to Bo Kaufman of RE/MAX Performance Realty. Are you thinking of buying or selling a house or a condo in Winnipeg? Call Bo at 204-333-2202. Remember, Bo knows real estate.
And I thought this was going to be a dull day.